Good morning. This is Mona, and this is my morning view. Today, this winter/spring edition of 2025. So, this is the thing. Through my whole life, winter changed December 21st. Spring was March 21st. Give or take, because of, the groundhog. All right. But we really didn't go by what the groundhog said. We just, kind of went by the calendar anyways. So it was always the 21st. Well, the last couple of years, that has changed. The calendar now says the 20th. The 20th. So that would make today the official day of spring. Which reminds me, why did it change? Before I start, today is Thirsty Thinking Thursday. So we're going to be thinking today. All right, so Thirsty Thinking Thursday. Like, comment. Go over to my YouTube page, Mona E. Harrison. Like, comment, hit notifications, subscribe. Subscribe right now is the most important part. However, for me, for you, is to watch the whole video. If you've watched the whole video here, I'm not going to expect you to watch the whole video there. You can put it on fast speed. That may help. Although, I had somebody call me yesterday and tell me that they actually like the pauses. They actually like the slow pace, and it's not, they're not in a hurry to gobble up whatever nutrition is there. It's a slow eat. It's an easy digestion. So, with that, go over there, like, subscribe, hit notifications, watch the entire videos. You can do it on fast speed, or you can slowly dine. All right. Thirsty Thinking Thursday. So, my thought on this spring thing, that it was now on the 20th versus the 21st, it's like, okay, why is that? Is that because the systems, the planets, the, whatever, the alignment of everything, ta-da, that it has shifted. And so, therefore, they're putting spring a day early, winter a day early. Is that for summer too? I haven't checked the calendar on that. Is it for fall? Haven't checked the calendar on it. So, with that, my thought is why? Why did it change? Is it possible, because especially the way this year has been going, is it possible that somebody messed up? That somebody accidentally put it on the wrong date? No, it's possible. I'm not saying this is what it is. I'm saying it's possible. And thereby putting it on the wrong date, it just became each year the next person filling out the calendar put it on the wrong date. Because somebody somewhere had accidentally put it on the wrong date. This happens quite a bit. Quite a bit. That's why it's plausible. Okay, not saying that's the reason. Could have to do with the alignment of everything, and things have just shifted a little bit to where, they're saying, no, spring's definitely coming the day early. Winter's coming the day early versus what it used to be. Now, or were we wrong all those years? It's possible. So those who follow me, that I've mentioned before about a driveway that is on our property that doesn't go to our house. There is no easement for that. It was put there. It started with the neighbors asking if they could drive over the property in order to park their car next to their driveway because they had multiple people working different hours, and it was easier to do that than to shift back and forth their vehicles every time somebody had to leave. And it's like, yeah, you can do that. That's not a big deal, And then the following people came. They did the same thing. Used the property to get onto their property. And so it kind of killed the grass, kind of made like a little pathway there, a pseudo driveway. And then they decided they were going to pave our road. So I've been talking about the pavers this week because I've had to contend with the tree cutters being very loud during my lives. So it's an end of an era of the dirt road, and they're going to be just like any other suburb. So there you go. That's where I'm at on that topic. My daughter saw the devastation and she was like, "Did anybody watch the Lorax?" All right. So I don't like cutting down trees unless they're ill, unless there's no chance of survival, unless they pose a threat to human life. And so, you know, if it's about to fall, if it looks like it's going to fall on your house, if it's given a good storm, I would say take it down. Because if it falls on the house, it could take life, right? So here's this property line that has this pseudo driveway, and they come and they mark where all the driveways are. They don't do that. They come and they mark the center of all the roads. They put a pink stake on the opposite end of the road to mark that that is where the road goes, right? That's their survey stake for paving the roads, not properties, not property lines, for the roads. So the following people that moved in, the gentleman saw the pink stake, not knowing about the paving of the roads because they moved in after. So seeing the pink stake, he thought that was the property line. While we were at work, he graveled his pseudo driveway. So now there is a driveway that begins on our property and ends on their property. Then he sells the house. They sell the house. And the people who buy it, part of the description is that they have a double driveway. The realtor put that it was a double driveway. So now they think that that is their property line, solidifying that here's this gravel road, here's a stake with a pink ribbon on it, and therefore it's their land. That is a valid driveway. Years later, because they did not pave, COVID happened, things happened, everything slowed down. So now they're getting back to, we're paving the road. So they resurvey because it has been a long time, and now they have a whole different crew that's going to pave the road. And they put up the pink ribbons again. And when they do it, they're surveying all the driveways. So we go down to find out how much property is actually going to be ceded by the, that's not the right word, I know procured is not the right word, eminent domain. How much of our frontage is going to be taken? Because we have a very steep driveway. And if you take too much from our driveway, it's going to be impossible to get up. We would never have bought a house with a driveway like this. We have a driveway like this right now. But if they take too much, it's going to be a driveway like this. And no, that is a no-go on it, right? So we went down to find out how much. It's not that much. It's not going to change it that much. So we're okay with that. But we notice that there's this driveway that they had planned for the plans in the town. The gravel driveway that's on our property. And we're like, wait a minute. If they skirt the property, or if they put, if they skirt the driveways, or if they make curbs and they allot for this driveway, they're validating the driveway that doesn't exist. It's there, but it's not supposed to be. It's when an error is made. I'm not talking about the driveways. I am, but I'm not. When an error is made and it moves forward and is then validated, then people take it as truth. Okay? This has happened quite a bit throughout history, throughout life. Now, we all know that with wars, whoever wins the war gets to write the history book, right? So, but you also have to remember that there is a narrative on each side. That there are truths, and there are fabrications on both sides. I'm sure the Nazis, that bad word, taboo, oh, I said the word, because believe it or not, they existed. And some still kind of exist today in a pseudo-warped mind. So anyways, if Germany would have won World War II, the narrative would have been much different, and we would have been the bad guys. We would have been the bad guys. The Allies. The Axis were the other guys. The Allies would have been the bad guys. Now, they've been portraying us as bad guys for just about ever since. Not the Germans, but just the narratives. So here we are. Instead of the heroes, because we won World War II, we are all now the heroes. The Allies are the heroes of the story. But it doesn't mean that they didn't do things wrong. For example, encamping all the people of Japanese descent that were American citizens. Yeah, I brought in the Japanese because they were part of World War II. There were atrocities that were done. So, I was thinking about this fan this morning. That's what started it. I was thinking about this fan that I have. It's from the Civil War era. And back in the day, they used to have these fans that, depending on how they were folded, how they were held, it spoke a language amongst all the ladies in the community or the festivities. They had their own language. And I was thinking about this time that I have to study that. And I'm like, why would I study that when nobody uses it anymore? I really need to use my time wisely and study things that are useful. But then you go into, how do you know it is true? How do you know that it's not fabricated? How do you know that the truth is being told versus a fairy tale? You know, we have a lot of stories in Christianity that give us this opportunity to remind us of God, remind us of Jesus. For example, the candy cane, how the candy cane came to existence, and the candy maker, and the shepherd's hook held one way, or J for Jesus on the other direction, and the colors, the red for his blood, and the white for purity, and blah 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 blah. The story of the candy cane. You can look it up, you can find it. It's a story. Whether it has any validation, it's a story. Stories are good as long as you know they're stories. Jesus told stories called parables. Parables. When he started his parables, he started a certain way. There's an interesting thing that there's one that is called a parable by us, but Jesus used an actual name. And usually the stories didn't have names. The parables usually did not have names. In fact, they didn't. That's the only one with a name, which makes me wonder whether it was a parable or whether it was a true story. And it had to do with Lazarus the beggar. Not Lazarus, his friend, who was raised from the dead. He was a wealthy man. We're talking about Lazarus the beggar. And he died and went to Abraham's bosom, which is paradise, which is holding space for those that were of good standing with the Lord. The rich man died and he went to Sheol, the holding place for those that were not so in good standing with God. He used the name. Makes me wonder. Remember, this is Thursday Thinking Thursday. I'm not telling you how to think. I'm telling you that you should think. So, while I was thinking about this fan and stuff, it's like, the only time they really use it is like maybe in reenactments, and how many reenactors actually know about this? Some of them do. So you would sit there and you would think about this time when reenacting was a thing. It's not so much a thing anymore. The whole narrative of, I'm going to say another word that, it's not Feisty Friday yet, but woke. The woke movement. They wanted to eradicate history. They didn't care whether it was true history. They just cared that they didn't want the bad stuff to be seen. We don't want anything from history because history is bad. We have a bad history. We have a bad mentality thinking about history. And, well, it's the ones that won that ends up get to write the narrative. The North won the Civil War, by the way. And slavery was ended, by the way. It didn't stop the prejudice. Some of that still stood for decades, still does. We're not saying that that prejudice doesn't exist. We're saying that history existed, and you should not erase history, because once you erase history, then you are really, really, really doomed to repeat it again. Because you didn't learn anything from something that, didn't exist. It didn't exist in your mind. So if it didn't exist, then it didn't happen. And if it didn't happen, well, what's going to happen? So we don't want to erase history. We want to learn from history. The good, the bad, the ugly. Each side has their own narrative. Each side, you can go back and find writings of people that lived a certain way. You can do it today. You can have everybody witness one thing, have them sit down, write it out, and they'll all have a different story. Some of it will go together. Some of it will show that, the room was blue. It was a red car that crashed into the room, something like that. Some people will say maroon. Some people won't know the color at all. They'll think of red as all the blood that's splattered all over the place. It's the way people think about the thing that they're witnessing. It's already preconceived ideas that will influence any memory. Any memory. That includes some of the memories that you have. You can actually change your memory by how you think about them. And that can work for the good, or it can work against you. So it can work for you, or it can work against you. I find it easier to come into that place of acceptance for what it is, grow from it, move forward. Leave it in the past. You don't have to forget it. You don't have to change your memory. But if it works for you, it's possible to do that. It's the neuroplasticity of the mind. So when you're thinking about stories, I love stories. I love making up stories. There's this thing called artists, what is it called? Now I can't think of it. Liberty. liberty of the artist to change the story so they can take a true story and they can, with artistic liberty, change the story. It's not to make the story better. In their mind it is. Maybe it's the difference between an Academy Award or something, or an Oscar. But to the viewer's mind, we're watching this true story. And things have been changed for artistic liberty. And if you don't know the history of the story, you can get caught up into that is reality. That this is true. Because it's a true story. Oh, did you know that that happened to that individual? Because it was in the movie. You cannot take movies as golden truth. You cannot. People learned that when they used to read the books, and then they would write the movies, and the people would always say, "Oh, the book was always better." Well, because they read the book first, and then they watched the movie, and they were disappointed because it was different than what they thought. Others watched the movie first, and then they went back and read the book, and then they could visualize the stuff happening, but they couldn't visualize the stuff happening that was not in the movie because they didn't see it. So they lost a bit in the book. There's different variants of that. So when we change the story, and things get validated, like that driveway. When things get validated, and it gets changed, and now people are moving in that space that it is true, we are in danger. Jesus told stories. It means we can. We can tell stories. We can tell stories that are not true. He told them to teach them a value, a way of remembrance, a space where they can understand a glimpse of God. We can have our stories like that. Like the soldier and his deck of cards. I used to send that little script with a deck of cards to the guys that were in the war after 9/11. I sent them little care packages, and in there would be a deck of cards with the story that symbolizes our walk with God. But that's not what a deck of cards was made for. The candy cane. It's a story. I'm thinking Partridge in a Pear Tree. 12 Days of Christmas. The 12 Days of Christmas. There's a story behind the song. There's all these different stories that are out there. And as soon as, there was this horrible story about an eagle. I'm saying it's horrible because it was so fabricated. The value that they were trying to portray got lost in its validity as a story. And it was told in a church. And there are still people today, like 20 years later, still telling that story as if it's true. And it's like, no, if you know anything about eagles, that story is not true. And it makes you look foolish when you tell a story as if it is factual when it is absolutely not, and it can be proved like relatively quickly. Relatively quickly. You don't want to tell stories that are not true to people who are unbelievers, especially when they know what the true thing is, and they're looking at you like, are you gullible, stupid? What validates your belief system when you don't even know this common understanding of nature? You know, I mean, it could really make Christians look really stupid. They make themselves that way because they don't look up and investigate and think thirstily in their minds in order to understand whether something was a story to get you to think about something, or whether it is a fact in nature or in science or whatever, and it validates this value to say, yes, what it's like in nature is what it's like in the spiritual. What it's like in the spiritual is what it's like in nature. And you can find those. You don't have to fabricate a wild story about eagles tearing off their beaks and living another, up to 80 years old, and it's not scientifically even remotely true, and yet the story is out there, and people say it as if it's truth. Boy, that should have been a Feisty Friday. We want to embrace the stories, especially if they touch our heart, especially if they move us toward God. But we have to know whether they are a story, whether they are a parable, whether they are artists' rendition of liberty, or whether they are true historical facts, true scientific facts. And then it can be validated as fact versus having something that is not fact validated as fact, and people moving forward into life thinking that they know something that isn't so. That people are thinking that it's true because it's been validated, when all it was an error. Somebody forgot to say, this is a story, or somebody forgot to say, or somebody forgot to do the right thing, or somebody accidentally put something on the wrong date. Whatever it is that got changed and then validated because nobody went back and did the research on it. So that's where I'm leaving you with Thirsty Thinking Thursday. Remember, like, comment, go over to YouTube, Mona E. Harrison, like, comment, subscribe. That's the most important part right now, so that I can get 50 subscribers, so that I can have 15 minutes, my 15 minutes of fame. And then I can go a little bit longer than 3 minutes over there. But make sure you watch the videos, because as you watch them, it opens up a space. When you comment, when you like, when you do all the stuff, hit notifications, when you do all the stuff, it opens up a wider range where people can actually see it, even though they're all public. The algorithms will show more people as more people watch, as more people subscribe, as more people comment. It becomes a larger window. So if you think what I have to say has some value in it, and you think that your friends or your family or somebody can get some value out of what I say on here, share it. Do all those things. Help me reach out beyond the current 3-minute window. All right. So I will see you tomorrow for Feisty Friday. Thank you, Brittany, for watching. Thank you, Jennifer, for watching. And don't forget, go over to YouTube, Mona E. Harrison. Hit subscribe. Blessings, everybody. This usually gets uploaded later on in the day or in the evening or the next day to YouTube, because the uploading process, it's more than one step. All right. Blessings. Bye.